Does the United States Supreme Court have a gender bias concerning women's issues? We discuss the implications of recent SCOTUS rulings with constitutional law attorney Emily Tisch Sussman. I'm Angela Ray. This is DC Breakdown. Let's get started.
Breaking through the rhetoric, breaking down the issues. From the nation's capital, this is DC Breakdown.
She is a powerhouse jurist, the second female to sit on the United States Supreme Court, the first Jewish female justice, and a woman who at 81 years old reminds us how important diversity is in all aspects of our lives. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is on a roar, not a roll, but a roar. She is calling out her male colleagues for failing women with some recent court decisions. We've invited Emily Tisch Sussman, a constitutional law attorney from the Center for American Progress, to talk about some of the cases that back up Justice Ginsburg's comment. Emily, it's always good to have you on the show. Anyone who wants to talk about, well, maybe Justice Ginsburg should retire so that President Obama can... No, we want her to stay right there.
Yeah, there is a lot of discussion about that. Justice Ginsburg has definitely earned her title recently as the notorious RBG. There's a pretty great Tumblr out there if you haven't checked it out.
That's great.
It is pretty great. And she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
In her interview with Katie Couric after the Supreme Court term, she was basically saying, look, we can't be expecting other people to be fully considering our views, fully considering what our experience is like. We have to be at the table ourselves. And when she was saying with this last Supreme Court decision, with this last Supreme Court term, there were decisions that really covered the spectrum of issues that are impacting women. Everything from health care, your employer providing health care and what they're providing for you, to the collectively bargaining in your job and your wages, to safety when looking for reproductive access. Like, it really covered the spectrum. And no one knows better than her, right? She was in that room and she saw those decisions being discussed and debated. And for her to come out and say these decisions were not only bad for women, but that women weren't even really adequately represented when making these decisions and how they would impact their lives, I think we have to take her word for it. And more than that, I think we have to take it into our own hands and take action.
Yeah, and she has said something interesting that as far as the gay agenda is concerned, that the members of the court seem to understand that we need to move along with this issue and this issue needs to be resolved the way it is being resolved. But when it comes to women, they seem to take a more paternalistic approach. It's like they don't have daughters and wives, and it's uncanny.
It is. It's so interesting. And Justice Ginsburg, in her own experience as an attorney before she was on the Supreme Court, had been such a champion for gender equality. Mm-hmm. She actually even represented men in a case saying that, when women were able to buy alcohol at a lower age than men, she had represented the men saying, forget about just representing women. We all have to be at the table.
That's right.
Like, we all have to have full equality. It really is unfortunate to see how the court is not able to take that perspective. I think we see a lot of this in the discussion about, work-life balance. What does it mean to be able to have a full career and feel like you have those maternal responsibilities as well? That's really only half the conversation. We only get all the way there once we start to talk about men and their work-life balance.
Right.
It's the only way we'd fully get there.
Absolutely.
She got it. The other justices do not.
Yeah, and it's interesting. She talks about when Sandra Day O'Connor, I guess she retired in '06, and for a spate of time, she was the only woman on the court. And it's interesting to hear how she felt that she was dismissed when it came to her opinion. So, she's feeling the inequality that we women, a lot of us feel in our work environment and in other environments. She was feeling it there on the court, which is dangerous.
Yes, and it's hard to think that if somebody who is as accomplished as she is, as outspoken as she is, still felt that, like, you really connect with that, right? I think everybody
Yes.
feels that a little bit at some point, that, if you get in the room, you're carrying this responsibility of all these people behind you. And to some extent, we do still have that. That's why everybody needs to fight to get at the table. We can't just have, it's terrible when there's nobody there.
That's right. That's right.
But even if there's just one, that's a huge responsibility on someone. We need to have women justices. We need to have women managers. Women need to run for office. Like, women need to be in these management positions and making decisions. And we know that we need more and more.
Well, and our girl has gone on the record, Justice Ginsburg. She's hilarious. She's like, listen, everything will be okay when there's 9 female justices on the court. And people are like, what do you mean? Well, you didn't have a problem when it was 9 men. Why do you have a problem with me saying you can't envision that? You can suspend disbelief. 9 women on the court. Let's talk about some of the cases that might have led her to make the decision that SCOTUS has failed women. Let's start with Hobby Lobby, because that's a big one, and you and I talked about that a month ago or so.
Yeah, Hobby Lobby is the big headline case coming out of this court. What the challenge was on the Hobby Lobby business saying, we are a religious business, and because we are a religious business, we don't feel that we have to comply with the Affordable Care Act saying that we have to provide contraception to all of our employees. Our religious nature tells us that 4 kinds of contraception are against our religion. It's not based in science, it's not based in law. We feel it in our religion. And for that reason, we don't want to have to supply that to our employees. And the court actually sided with them. They said, if you are this kind of closely held corporation.
And this is a family corporation, Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, so exactly. It's a family corporation.
Religious, too.
A religious family, and that is what the plaintiffs are fully saying. We are a family, we are a religious family. So the court defined it as a closely held corporation. But I just want to be clear about what a closely held corporation is. It's not, your butcher on the corner. It's not the salon, down the block. It's actually 90% of corporations in America, which covers 52% of employees.
Whew.
That's quite a lot for a closely held corporation.
Who wrote did Alito write
Yeah, this is definitely a conservative opinion. This is a Scalia opinion. But what they, so there's really 2 ways of interpreting it moving forward. Like where is the real impact?
Right.
One school of thought is that because the company decided that purely based on religious reasons, they won't provide contraception, this could apply to everyone. This could be anything. It could be any kind of medical procedure any company doesn't want to offer. That could be blood transfusions.
That's right.
That could be vaccinations. That's what the Ginsburg decision. We don't even know where this is going to end. So that's one school of thought, that it could affect everyone. The other school of thought about how this will affect cases moving forward is that it actually won't impact things like vaccinations, blood transfusion, antibiotics. And there's actually something special about contraception. There's something special about healthcare for women that makes it different from healthcare for men. We'll just see, honestly, there's about 70 cases in the pipeline right now coming up. So although the decision is both broad and a little bit vague, we'll see a lot more clarity moving forward. But it's sort of in one of those 2 tracks.
And this case was not good. This was not a win for women. I just want to make that clear.
This is definitely not a win for women. If your employer can decide what kind of birth control you can be on and what kind of birth control you can access because of their religious views when you're a 17,000 person corporation like Hobby Lobby, not a win for women.
Okay, I've got to run through the next 2 very quickly. Harris versus Quinn had to do with home care providers, which is largely representative of women.
It is. It absolutely is. This was a partly private sector union. They were challenging the way that they could organize and collect dues. This also was not a win for women. We know that currently across the country, women make 77 cents on the dollar compared to men. Changing the way that you can organize and collect dues is not a win there. It does not help as a bargaining tool for women.
All right, let's go on to McCollum versus Coakley.
So that was a case that was dealing with the protective barrier around a clinic that provides abortion and provides reproductive rights. So the current law that stated that in the state of Massachusetts you have to be 35 feet.
Right.
That's the zone. That's what the state law said. So if anyone's ever been to one of these clinics, we maybe know why that zone is important. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court said it is too far. That zone is too large. And it restricts the free speech of the protesters. The protesters want to be able to counsel. Counsel is their word.
Yeah, because that's why I'm there.
They're there to counsel at a very difficult moment in a woman's life.
That's right.
And unfortunately, the Supreme Court ruled that barrier is too wide, and the state needs to look for smaller options. And maybe it's actually around the woman, not around the building.
Again, not a win. And these are all of these opinions came down boom, 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 like back to back.
Oh yeah, they were throwing these ones out there. They thought they had a real win on this one, in this case. Especially, actually, the McCollum case is interesting because that actually was a unanimous decision.
Yes,
Ginsburg and the other liberal justices, they decided that there is still a zone of privacy around the woman.
Yeah.
but just not to the building. And so there are other ways that you could maybe look for a compromise here. The more conservative justices didn't even recognize that right.
Okay, wow.
Really on a high.
Right, really. All right, Emily Tisch Sussman, thank you for, I enjoyed this discussion about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's not going anywhere. We love her.
The notorious
RBG. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Always good to have you on. We talk with Dr. Julie Goldstein Grummett of the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention when DC Breakdown continues.